they were going their way and I was going my way. And there's just a lot. There's a lot of sessions here. I mean, there's probably 40 speakers, presenters, keynoters, some big names in education. And, so it's busy. There's, I think, 1,500 people in attendance here, but it's a really good lineup of different topics. But we plan to maybe have lunch tomorrow. They said they're going to miss out tonight. I said, go ahead. I think they're going to Moulin Rouge or one of the shows. I said, yeah, go do New York. So
nice.
We'll catch up tomorrow. I said, we'll just do a private lunch session tomorrow.
That's fantastic. Right on. I'm so glad because, I really want to help her get this through the education system.
Yeah.
It needs to be, and it's well received. Like when we've spoken to people, this has been the course that has had the most uptake so far, by the way. It's going to be a part of this broader governance program that I'm building, and this will be a piece of, so starting with that self-governance and then moving into community governance and then land governance and finally spiritual governance.
Awesome.
So that's the idea of, my piece that I think I can own in this, is trying to loop it all together.
I love that. Yeah.
Good.
For right now, I'm just kind of enjoying. One thing I wish we would have done, and I might try to do this with the next group, is collected a little bit of data up front, maybe a questionnaire to
good idea.
say kind of where are you when we started this, and then compared to where you are at the end.
So you raise a really important thing. So I've been talking about, it's just a simple example. My old boot camp coach, he was very good at knowing how to keep everybody challenged, meaning whether somebody was an expert like Amy versus somebody who's brand new to this like Jenny.
Yeah.
They all feel like they're contributing in a way that's meaningful for them.
Yeah.
So you're right. Had we done that first, we could have had a sense, and then I could have paired people almost like more skill, less skill.
True.
And then also if two experts wanted to talk together, there could have been opportunities to do that more thoughtfully. Yeah. Hi, Tammy. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for, me and Tammy have spent so much time together, like so much.
Yeah, I guess I'm an hour ahead of what I normally am. I'm on East Coast time this time, so that was something I had to remember.
So Brad's in New York City, just outside of Times Square, and he's staying in the same hotel that I stayed in, like in 2001, the Marriott Marquis. Yeah, it's so funny because he showed his window, and I was like, "What hotel are you staying at?" And I was like, "Wait, don't answer that. That's probably not appropriate." But we weren't recording, and now I've said it. I won't use that, Brad.
That's a great view. Yeah, it's a great location if you ever get here. This is just as centrally located as you can get. And Broadway you'll walk out the door in Hamilton, Richard Rodgers Theater's right here, and Lion King's right across the street. And if you want to see a show, you can't hardly beat it. And they do a great job because they get the teachers, they block this off. They got a great deal because teachers couldn't afford to come to New York. So they locked in some low rates during COVID. And so we're at a conference for educators, but
nice.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so cool.
People.
Wow.
Here comes some people.
Hi, everybody. We can get started, Brad. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, good to see everyone. I was just telling Jenny, I think you started something here with this at this conference. So I got here and kind of talked a little bit about what we were doing, meeting weekly and practicing skills together and kind of developing this community of support around a pathway of skills that we have in common and applying it to some of the challenges that we have in our lives and supporting each other. I really appreciated that feedback last time, just about kind of the cohesion of the group. I think that's something that I should have probably talked more about and probably should have incorporated more. I wrote this as a self-regulation journey, but I'm really seeing the benefits of the group as far as the practice and support and ideas and learning from other people and the validation and some of the other pieces that come along with that. So thank you for that feedback. I'm learning too as we go through this, but so they gave everyone here at this conference a copy of this book. So 1,500 of these going out to people from all over the country and the world. And I kind of told them what we were doing. And so then they made this slide. They're going to put it up on they put it up on the big projector in front of everyone. So I'll be starting another book study for anyone that was here and got the book. starting in March. So they'll be doing the same thing that we're doing here with another group of people. So just super exciting. Thank you so much, everybody, for this journey and coming along and trying it out, and also being very open-minded about, this is a first time try for this. So I'm just going to jump right in, Jenny, if you think, and I'll just so we're up on skill 5 here. So expression. I think that that skill we covered last week, the ownership piece. I did want to, before we go into skill 5, did anybody have any questions or issues? That's just such a sticky. Anybody catch themselves? I kind of do want to reflect a little bit on that. Did things make me upset? Did things, we spend 1 week on that skill, but it's such a big piece of this. Anybody have any thoughts about that to share with the group?
Yeah, I think it was, I noticed myself being able to think about this in an incident that happened with me this week.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is true, Brad, and maybe you can validate this, but I was told by a sports expert that, so this was her words, what drives us is fear, but if they really narrow it down, it's fear of embarrassment. So this was the lesson she gave. I don't know, you can correct me or not if that's real. Okay. But why I say that is because I had put something out on social media that was quite popular. Have got a lot of attention. It wasn't me, but it was somebody speaking for me.
Okay.
And so somebody came and put a comment to something else I did, and it's said the veracity of what you're saying and the way you excluded people in this other conversation shows that you know nothing about what you're doing, and da. And so it went on that.
Okay.
And so, I right away was like, okay, so now I'm dysregulated. I knew it. And then the thing I was asking myself is I was surprised at how high. So again, I went through this. I went how high, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Cause I could tell I was ready to fire it back. Right. I was wanting to just go, well, actually, but instead I was like, thank you for your concern. I'll DM you about this. And so then I sent him a note and said, hey, how can I help? What's going on?
Okay.
Anyway, so then I didn't read. So to your point about being able to be effective,
he
sent me a note back, and all I read was, if you want to know more, read this 20-page document. And I was like, I can't do that. That's not. And then he said, I just gave you 3 reasons of what you did wrong. And so then I looked, and he had given me 3 reasons. So then I had to slow down and try. So I just noticed how much I wasn't able to act. So I finally did what you advised in the first place, which was I need to take a break. I was at 8, so I needed to just walk away from it. So I stopped engaging with him entirely.
Good.
And then I actually I'm sorry to go on about this. I hope it's okay to use this as an example. But I actually had a meeting with somebody who's working with me, and I said, do you know this, the name of his journalism? And he goes, yeah, I do. And I said, oh, great. And he goes, it's really good stuff. I was actually thinking you should be working with this guy. And so I laughed and I told him the thing. And then I said, I'm sure I've heard him speak. I've met him. He knows what he's talking about. I know I need to talk to him. So can you please just help me help him? Right. So he's going to help me try and engage with this guy. So it's all great, but it's just, I was able to use it and really think about it. And then I can see, I hope this is the goal, how you can start doing that in real time. And that's the self-talk that that you're teaching us.
Yeah.
Okay. That was long-winded. Thank you.
Yeah. Remember when we talked about skill development, exposure, then there's development, and then there's practice, and it takes time. And, we work with sometimes kids on this, and they'll say, yeah, I really did a good job calming down after I smacked so-so in the face. And it's like, you got to be careful, because you want to say, that's great. Good job. Now we just want to get that safe and calm before you swing at somebody, right? So it's good job on the skills. It's just timing now. So, and that's what we see with skill progression. You're describing it. It's not it's easy to talk about in here, right? Because we're not upset. We're not, we're talking about things that aren't fresh. It's not real time right now. It's reflective. But that's also when how you learn skills. We can't learn in those heat of the moment moments. It's not a teachable moment. So we have to practice when we're not upset to be able to apply when we need it in the moment of upset. Nice job of explaining that. I also wondered if anybody, just reflecting on that, ownership piece, if anybody was able to do anything with that dial. Remember, I used kind of the analogy of who's got their hand on the dial, if we're at a 7 or an 8. And if we were able to think about intensity and duration and who really controls that intensity and duration of those emotions that we have. So I hope that, you're seeing this as a progression. We've already covered, fight or flight system activation, and then how to turn that dial down, biological dial. Then we've talked about labeling these feelings. Last time we worked on this ownership piece of, can things really make me? I have the final say about how angry or how sad or how scared I want to be about this. And then now we're getting into this 5th skill, which is, okay, this emotion stuff, it's energy. It's going to go somewhere. It's got to be directed. And you can be intentional about that. And that's our goal with self-regulation, is to be intentional with our skills, to take some conscious steps to do something with this and not be super passive about it. Because if we allow that to kind of be our default, sometimes we develop skills that aren't healthy in that area. So hopefully key points, what I've been doing kind of every week is key points I want to point out with this skill. But key points are stuffing feelings is not a healthy skill. That's the first one that we often have to, and this is something I want you all to think about and talk about in your breakout groups, is just, I know I say this about halfway through or a third of the way through the chapter, but where did we learn this? What did, this is one of those things that I think it's interesting to reflect on your upbringing about. What was anger like in my home as a kid? What was sadness? What was fear? Were they even talked about? Were they even acknowledged as different things? And this is something I think that's really unique. And you talk about skill development. If we haven't had exposure to this stuff, there's households where, hey, we don't get angry here. We don't do this. We don't talk about that. We're not going to be upset. And so how does a person, coming from that, have any idea what to do when they feel angry or sad or scared? So this can really hit on I think this one in particular really hits on some things that are learned sort of behaviors from our upbringing and models that we had in our life when we were younger about what to do with this energy. So that's a key point. Stuffing is not, so it's going to come out. The other thing is, I do see people, and this is a common pattern, I just stuff it. I only have so much capacity to hold that. And then it comes, so it's a really kind of predictable cycle of holding it in, and then it comes busting out on the poor, unsuspecting next person that's in front of me when I'm up to here, and it comes busting out. So those are patterns that we want to look for. I also think it's really interesting when we do this in the adult group, when we're face to face. I've got people up in groups, and we've got happy, sad, angry, and scared down one side of the page. And then we put healthy and unhealthy at the top and draw a line between the two. And the group's job is to determine what are healthy ways to express sadness and what are unhealthy ways that we sometimes express sadness. What are healthy ways to express fear and sometimes unhealthy ways that we do that, and kind of go down the list. I think that's an important exercise, and you might think about that in your breakout groups. So those were the points that I wanted to make. And I do think these questions, these reflection questions in this section, are really good to talk about in your breakout groups. They kind of guide exactly where I think you want to go here. And I did talk about patterns of healthy and patterns of unhealthy. And also being proactive versus reactive. How can I kind of I feel like this is one where a visual might be a release valve, kind of letting pressure out here with expression. But I'm curious, in your groups, talk about what works for you. What have you learned over the years? Sometimes our expression is connected to our creative outlets, our hobbies, our areas of interest. We see that a lot. So if it's connection to nature or higher power, or you're a real social person, or you are a writer, those are things I want us to talk about in the breakout groups and how that helps. Okay, any questions before we split up? Okay, I'm ready to go.
So I'm going to go ahead and open the room. So about 20 minutes then?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
See
Good
you
luck,
all.
everyone.
You all did a lot of busting tonight, just visiting openly about these experiences. If I might, I know we're running up on time. Should I kind of wind down a little bit here?
Yeah, please, Brad.
I don't
Thank
know.
you.
We really triggered thought. I thought she was writing a poem for a second in the chat. So we think she's a poet and didn't know it. But we had a poem that was felt was really relevant. And some of you might know this poem. It's short. It's by Rumi. It's called The Guest House. I think it's really appropriate. My mindfulness teacher read this to us during our study on emotions and just being introspective here. So if you're willing, I'll just read. It's really short. So it's called The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So really, as we were kind of talking about acknowledging these emotions, sitting with them for a minute, I thought that was a good analogy. I love that poem because it says, create some space for them. They're normal. Acknowledge them. And we talked a little bit about sharing. What can we do with them while they're spending time with us, right? And then that's allowing us to, okay, you've been here a while. We're going to clear that out and make room for the next one to come. And I think seeing them as transitional is helpful sometimes. We move through these things, but if we don't sit with them for a minute, it's hard to move past them, right? So really appreciate the conversation. This can get pretty deep pretty fast. And so make sure you all, take care of yourself tonight. Maybe do some safe and calm practice. Maybe do some expression, because we kind of got in touch with some heavy stuff here. So, which is okay. Next week, so skill 6. So we're going to transition out of emotion regulation. So we've went through 5 skills already. So we've got some exposure to learning about what our physical warning signs are, practicing safe and calm to shut that fight or flight down. Now we've got labeling emotions so we can kind of separate what we're feeling. Ownership, I can turn the dial a little bit if I want to. And now we've got expression on board. I can sort of direct this energy where I want to. And now we're going to take a little step into, okay, how does thinking connect to all this? So we've got a physical response we've dealt with. We've got an emotional response to challenge we've talked through. And now we're going to look at, what do my thoughts have to do with my emotions and behavior? And this skill here, this beliefs system is the core of cognitive therapy, really. If you've done any cognitive therapy, this will sound familiar because it's going to ask you to take a look, an inventory of your core beliefs. What are your rules for living, basically? And this also sort of defining characteristics of your personality, who you are, sort of the building blocks of who you are. Based on our experience, our education, what people tell us, we form these rules for living. And so it's really important to be aware of what those rules are. I will just throw out real quickly, there should be a direct line. If you lay these skills out in a row, there's a direct line from skill 6 back to threat. Because rules for living, when your rules for living are violated, you're going to experience threat. So I want you to think about that connection as you go through this, and we'll process that more next week.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you, guys. That was a big week. I agree. I was saying to Brad, I'm glad that we get a week to soak on these things and then reflect on it. So yeah, this has been amazing. Have a good week, everyone.
Yes, take care.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.